Hello and welcome everyone to this brand new episode of Me 10 Photography Masterclass powered by the Me 10. In the previous episode, we touched upon the evolution of smartphone cameras, pro video mode and pro photo mode. Today's episode is slightly different. Today, we have a guest joining us and today we'll discuss about the possibilities with a smartphone camera. Our guest for today is Sandeep, also known as RevAtlas. Sandeep is a tech YouTuber with a great affinity towards cameras and especially smartphone cameras. So welcome Sandeep, we are excited to have you here with us today for this episode of Masterclass.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thanks for having me on.
What is your take on the evolution of smartphone cameras?
There is a change in trend in terms of how smartphones have evolved over the past decade or so. Initially, smartphones were primarily hardware driven. A few years later, it sort of became software driven. Focus on hardware sort of became less and less. But now in 2020, or say for the past couple of years, I've seen an equal importance being given to both the hardware as well as software side of things. And that's why we see a huge leap in terms of the overall quality and the sort of experience that you get from smartphone cameras these days.
What has been your experience in general with smartphone cameras? Like when did you start using the first camera?
I actually got a camera phone, which was years ago. That was kind of what got me into photography and this whole camera world in essence, because I took a photo, showed it to my uncle, and he said that it looks really great. Someone at that age to be appreciated by someone without even expecting it, I felt, okay, that's a nice thing. In hindsight, the photo was really bad, but at least the appreciation made me choose this line of work, right? And it's something that I truly enjoy. So it just happened just because of that one photo. But one thing that's definitely changed is that smartphone cameras have gotten so much better. Times you feel that, there's no need for a point and shoot especially, or where it can go almost head-to-head with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, for example, in certain situations.
Most of the people like shooting in automatic mode, while a lot of people are more keen towards the manual mode. So what's your take on both these modes and what has been your favorite, or what do you enjoy shooting more?
I've sort of evolved from a person who swore by only the manual mode, considering how smartphones especially have grown so much in terms of their photography capabilities. Like they have AI and other processing methods that actually give you great results compared to most of the other smartphones and cameras in the past, which you actually needed to use manual control in order to get the best possible outcome. But then again, with that said, I still resort to manual mode whenever possible to get that extra bit of control or reach that is simply not possible with the automatic mode,
You also have tried out the Mi 10. Where do you see Mi 10 fitting in today's smartphone camera space?
I've actually been using the Mi 10 for a while now, and one of the things I most enjoy about this phone is the manual video mode. Now, of course, manual photo mode is great and it's very capable, especially on this Mi 10. Video mode is actually even better, dare I say, because automatic videos generally don't tend to do that well compared to the kind of output you get when you do it manually. So this has log, this has cinematic aspect ratio, and these are things I generally get only on the camera that I use in my studio, for example. Especially considering just how small it is, you can just take it anywhere and get practically as good results with just your smartphone itself. It's good to see that Xiaomi is actually taking steps forward to improve not just the photography aspect of things with manual mode, but also the video side.
With these improvements, where do you see the smartphone cameras moving towards? Like, where do you see smartphone cameras going from here?
So last year, around this time, we were able to travel. So my family and I, we went to Europe and I carried my camera because this is sort of a trip that doesn't happen very often. So I carried my DSLR, I carried several lenses, but I also had my smartphone cameras with me. So for 90% of the shots, I just ended up using my smartphone. And the reason for that is two. One, the quality is very close to what you would get from a dedicated camera, but more importantly, the portability factor. Smartphones are so easy, it just fits in your pocket. It's quite fast in terms of capturing a moment. I have a son who at the time was 1 year old. So in order to get his, candid moments and stuff, it makes sense to just take out a smartphone and capture it, as opposed to opening the bag, taking out the DSLR, maybe have the lens already on or switch lenses and then capturing by the time the moment is gone, So that way smartphone cameras are so accessible. Personally, I'm someone who walks around with the phone in my hand just so that I can get any opportunity to capture a photo. I feel that, I've come a long way in terms of carrying 20 kilos worth of stuff in my backpack in terms of camera gear, but now a smartphone alone is good enough, and the Mi 10 is one such example of a great smartphone for these kind of requirements.
My follow-up question to that was very similar. Like, how many photos do you take in generally on an average day? Like,
maybe 50 plus, because especially like I said, with the son, we have a dog as well who's also like our son, so we take a lot of photos on any given day, and I'm obviously the designated photographer at home. Especially now that we're at home all the time, they're like, hello, come here, just take a photo. So it's quite a lot now, I would say. I'm saying 50 plus photos on any given day for sure.
Now that you shoot so many pictures every day, would there be some tips and tricks that you would want to share with everyone who's watching this right now?
Make use of what you have. Don't focus only on the equipment. This is something that I see a lot of people doing right now. They say that, hey, I don't have this camera, so as a result, I don't think I can take this photo. Try it out with whatever equipment you have. Focus on the end result rather than your medium of use, or rather the equipment that you have, and more often than not you will get great results once you devote yourself to that particular craft. So practice is very, very important. Like one of my favorite photographers, Henry Cartier-Bresson, said, the first 10,000 photos that you take are your worst. You can see yourself how you're becoming better in terms of photography with more and more practice, and just having passion for photography as well.
What is that one big project with a smartphone camera that you're looking for, or that has been in your thoughts for a longer time?
When I went to Europe, it was actually for my brother-in-law's wedding, and during that time I captured a lot of the wedding using my smartphones. I was kind of thinking, what if you can actually capture an entire wedding using a smartphone, and not just as a backup, because last time there was actually a backup, or rather I was the backup. There was an actual photographer there who was capturing all the moments, and I knew that regardless of whether I failed or not, those photos would still be there. But it would be interesting to see when you're put under that kind of a pressure, how would a smartphone cope up with. And I think the Mi 10 is one example where, like you said earlier, manual mode definitely comes in handy. And for an event like a wedding where you have so many things to take care of, be it shutter speed, be it the focusing, be it ISO levels, whatever, where you need so much manual and granular control, it makes sense to have a smartphone as capable as this. So who knows when we are able to do it. Right now we can't, but when we're able to do it, maybe I'll take the Mi 10 out for a spin, to cover a wedding.
That sounds interesting, Sandeep. I never actually thought of like a wedding setting with the smartphone camera, but yeah, that would be a challenge in itself. Thank you, Sandeep, so much for joining us today on this Mi 10 Photography Masterclass, and it was a great conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you, Xiaomi, for having me on board.
Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoyed this version of the masterclass. Hope to see you in the next one. Until then, keep shooting, keep learning.